Hey guys, welcome to the follow-up video for the Corsair RGB gaming PC. So a couple of days ago, I built this gaming PC powered by a Ryzen 7 3700X and an RTX 3070. And in this video, we're gonna do some gaming benchmarks, and then I'm gonna talk about some of the issues that I've encountered, and also show you guys the RGB lights because they are awesome. Oh, and this video that you are watching has been edited and rendered on this PC itself. Anyways, we're gonna start this benchmark off by playing some Shadow of the Tomb Raider because it's an RTX supported title, and we've got the RTX 3070. And as for the resolution and refresh rate, I've got 4K 120Hz with VRR FreeSync running on the Samsung TV, so all the games that you will see are running at 4K 120Hz. And I'll be pointing the camera at the screen rather than doing a screen recording via Shadowplay because DaVinci Resolve has some issues with Shadowplay recordings. Sometimes it just gets stuck while rendering videos that have been recorded via Shadowplay, so this method will have to do. And you will also be able to see the graphics card and the CPU temperature on the screen itself, so that should also cover the thermals. So first off, we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This game is running at 4K with NVIDIA DLSS turned on, plus I have also set the ray tracing to medium, and I've played through the first part of the game with the benchmark running. So here are the numbers. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 4K, high preset, medium ray tracing with DLSS gives us an average frame rate of 77 FPS with a minimum of 64. And you can also see the graphics card is pinned at 98% load, while the CPU usage is barely touching 20%. So we are kind of limited by the graphics card. If we had the 3080 or the 3090, that would give us a much better frame rate. Next up, we have Rise of the Tomb Raider. Gotta love the Tomb Raider franchise. Now this game is running at the high preset and it gives us about 70 to 80 FPS. And our average is around 84 FPS. And one of the reasons why I keep these settings on high is because I think it gives us a good balance between the frame rate and the visual quality of the game. If you want a higher frame rate, you might want to turn the quality down, but I think keeping it on high is a good idea. And hey, the minimum we have touched is about 69, so yeah, the game is running nice and smooth, no complaints here. The Doom franchise has always had a special place in my heart. I've been playing it since the original Doom came out. So here we have Doom Eternal running at 4K with Ultra Nightmare settings, so it's completely maxed out. And boy, what a treat it is to see this game running with all the settings maxed out at 4K. It does look quite stunning on such a big screen. So Doom Eternal completely maxed out Ultra Nightmare settings running on the RTX 3070 in 4K gives us an average of 109 with a minimum of 80 and a maximum of 328. Very impressive. Dota 2 is a game that will run on pretty much any hardware. It even runs fine on integrated graphics. But running it maxed out at 4K resolution does require a fair bit of power, and this PC is actually perfect for running games like Dota 2 with all the settings maxed out at 4K on a 120Hz monitor. Even when there is a lot of action, the frame rate will never dip below 100 FPS even in the worst case scenario. And while doing this benchmark, I was actually playing a ranked match, so this is not an offline game. So yeah, Dota 2 performs great, so we've got an average frame rate of 155 and a minimum of 107. But for the most part, the game does run above 120 FPS, so you're pretty much set. Alright, so moving on to the next game, here we have Grand Theft Auto 5 and the game is almost completely maxed out. So let's go to the graphics settings and let me show you. So as you can see, most of the options are set to very high except FXAA and MSAA. These two are turned off and we are getting about 110 FPS. Now Grand Theft Auto 5 isn't really a new title. In fact, it came out in the year 2013. But the thing is, it's still able to bring a brand new RTX 3070 down to its knees. You can see the graphics card is pinned at 98% usage. But hey, the game does look pretty amazing, and looking at it on such a big screen completely maxed out, it just blows my mind away. Sometimes I do wish I had picked up the 3080 instead of the 3070, but yeah, I was kind of limited by the budget. But still, I am very impressed by the 3070's ability to run games at 4K maxed out at a respectable frame rate. So Grand Theft Auto 5 running at 4K completely maxed out except anti-aliasing gives us an average of 107 FPS with a minimum frame rate of 95. Very respectable. And hey, if you want higher frame rate, you can always turn the settings down. But my goal is to strike a good balance between performance and the visual quality of the game. Next we have Fallout 4, and if you haven't played this game, I suggest that you do because it is awesome. Anywho, coming to the video settings, you know what, I will put the video settings right in front of the screen so that you guys can see it for yourself. I've encountered something really weird with this game. If I turn on weapons debris, the game will crash straight to the desktop right after starting up. So have to keep this option off. Other than that, the game is completely maxed out, including view distance. FXAA is set to low and anisotropic filtering is set to 4 samples. Again, I feel that this is a good balance between the visual quality and the smoothness of the game. If you prefer to play at 120 FPS and above, you might want to switch some settings off, but I think this is perfectly fine. So Fallout 4 gives us an average frame rate of 91 with a minimum of 68 and a maximum of 121. And you can see the GPU is again pinned at 99%, and I have given the graphics card a bit of an overclock, around 74 MHz. It's nothing really major, but yeah. Alright, next up we have Battlefield 5. Now as for the graphics, let's go to advanced. So you can see I have DXR and NVIDIA DLSS enabled, and we are running at the medium quality settings. So once again, this gives a good balance between the smoothness and the visual quality of the game. And also I have noticed this game is quite CPU intensive, so we are using about 45 to 50% of our 8-core CPU. And graphics card is pinned at 99%. And for the most part, the game runs super smooth on this configuration. But if you are playing Firestorm, you might want to turn the settings down to low so that you can get higher FPS. But for single player mode, I think this is okay. So Battlefield 5 gives us an average frame rate of 66 with a maximum of 77 and a minimum of 52. And finally, to answer the ultimate question, can it run Crysis? Yes, absolutely. And you know what, this game came out almost 10 years ago in 2011, now it's 2021 as of recording this video, and it still looks freaking amazing. One thing I have noticed is that the frame rate is capped at 65 FPS even though VSync is off, and you can also see the graphics card is not being utilized to a 100%. So I'm not sure what's wrong over here. I'm not gonna troubleshoot it, takes too much time. But yeah, I just wanted to show that Crysis 2 Maximum Edition still looks freaking amazing even in 2021. And hey, this sort of a configuration can run Crysis 2 4K, everything maxed out at ultra settings. So that wraps it up for the gaming benchmarks. Now I'm gonna talk about some of the issues that I've encountered with this motherboard, especially with the USB ports. So the thing that was happening is that whenever the PC was under load, for example, whenever you open up a video file in DaVinci Resolve, the devices that were plugged in into the USB 2.0 ports or the internal USB headers would get disconnected. So here you can see it in action. I have just opened up a video file in DaVinci Resolve and the RGB on the keyboard is paused. Mouse and the mouse mat are disconnected, and so is the Corsair lighting node core. It's just running through the default lighting sequence. Turns out this is a common issue with Gigabyte's B550 AORUS Pro AC motherboard. Now the fix for this is that you install the latest version of BIOS from Gigabyte's website. As of filming this video, F12 is the latest version released on 18th of January 2021. So this is the BIOS that I've installed on this motherboard, and it even says over here improves connection stability for the USB 2.0 ports. So after updating the BIOS, pretty much every USB issues with this motherboard have been sorted out. Alright, so after updating the BIOS, I ran Cinebench R23 and it gave me a multi-core score of 12,420 points. and a single core score of 1282 points. Now this is with XMP and Precision Boost Overdrive turned on, so the RAM is running at 3000 MHz. And running Cinebench before the BIOS update was nearly impossible without the keyboard, mouse and the RGB lights glitching out. But after the BIOS update, everything seems to be working okay. So that's a really positive update for you guys. And coming to the RGB lights, the motherboard and the graphics card RGB lights and also the display can be controlled through Gigabyte's RGB Fusion 2.0. And I just love how the display on the graphics card shows the temperature, fan speed, frame rate, and you can also enable more stuff in the RGB Fusion software. And I have already demonstrated this in detail in the review video of this graphics card. So you also might want to check that out if you want to know more about the RGB on the graphics card and how to control the display. But the star of the show are the Corsair RGB components like the LL120 fans, the Dominator Platinum RGB RAM and the H100i RGB Pro XT liquid cooler. I just love how everything integrates with the Corsair's IQ software, and there are a ton of different customization for the lighting effects, but what I love most is the light link feature. It kind of synchronizes the effects across all Corsair RGB components. I love it. Not to mention how bright those RGB lights are. I've set the brightness on the AIO and the RAM to a minimum and they are still very bright. And finally, as for 4K video rendering, right now I'm rendering a 4K video in DaVinci Resolve and you can see the CPU is almost at 100%. And as for the thermals, the temperature seems to be hovering between 70 to 72 degrees Celsius. And this is while rendering a 4K video. So yeah, thermals are pretty good. The fans are running in the quiet mode, so I'll just bring up Corsair IQ. So you can see the pump is running in extreme mode and the fans are running about 900 RPM. So yeah, it's pretty quiet. And these are the temperatures when the ambient temperature is 24.4 degrees Celsius near the intake of the computer. So yeah, thermals are pretty good. And check this out. This is the first time I've seen the power supply fan spinning. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but yeah. Even while gaming that fan doesn't spin up, but yeah, that's the first time I've seen that power supply fan spin up. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, Precision Boost Overdrive and XMP is turned on, so memory is running at 3000 MHz, which is its rated speed. And we are getting a boost of about 4 GHz, 4.10 GHz. We're done, and that took about 27 minutes to render a 24-minute 4K video at 45,000 bitrate. And this is on a Ryzen 7 3700X with an RTX 3070. So that is actually pretty decent. Very happy with the video rendering performance of the 3700X. Now, my personal rig, which has the Ryzen 9 3900X, that's a 12-core CPU and the exact same graphics card, the 3070, renders the same video in 22 minutes 37 seconds. So yes, that's a fair bit of difference between the two, but do keep in mind the 3700X is an 8-core CPU versus the 12-core CPU, which is the 3900X. Now, the difference may not seem that much, but when you are on a tight schedule, every minute counts. So yeah, the 12-core 3900X is definitely faster than the 8-core 3700X, but do keep in mind it's also much more expensive. Alright guys, I guess that brings us to the end of the video. If you have any questions about this build, let me know in the comments below and I will try and answer them. So thank you for watching, stay tuned for more videos, and also I think I'm gonna dive in more into PC components and gaming. So yeah, do expect more PC and gaming videos on this channel. So thanks for watching, stay tuned for more videos, and I will see you guys next time.